out there. I said, to heck with this. I'll do this in the morning. And I don't have any inside information. The lady that did it, she got in there. She made it happen.
And he doesn't shy away from opinion.
And I do enjoy drinking cold beer at ballparks. So if that makes me a baseball fan, then I'm a diehard baseball fan.
It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And a very good Monday evening to you, Jacksonville. It is Hacker After Dark, 1010XL 92.5 FM with Dylan Denmark. The Hacker Ryan Green with you. Glad you are starting another week with us as we now have a Super Bowl matchup. Boy, what a championship Sunday we witnessed yesterday. The San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. The last two teams standing. Of course, both of those teams beat your Jaguars by a combined score of 51-12. But you know why they won those games by a combined score of 51-12. They are the two best teams in football, and they will decide the world champion coming up in 13 days. We'll certainly spend some time on that. I want to begin with Championship Sunday. I also want to begin with things I noticed yesterday in relation to your Jacksonville Jaguars. Guest lineup looks like this. Coming up in less than 15 minutes, it's Monday night here on Hacker After Dark. That means my buddy Dave Campo. Monday night coaching with Campo. We'll have the former head coach of the Dallas Cowboys on to review Championship Sunday. We'll talk a little Ryan Nielsen. We'll talk a little Jaguars. So Dave Campo, less than 15 minutes away. And at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, we will head out to Mobile, Alabama. The Senior Bowl going on. That's right. It's Senior Bowl week. The draft starts in Mobile, as they say. My buddy Matt Verderam of SI will be out there in Mobile all week. We will talk Jaguars. We will talk AFC South. We will talk Senior Bowl. And, yes, we will talk Championship Sunday with Matt Verderam of Sports Illustrated. But as we do every night, to kick it off here on Hacker After Dark, we give you a big deal of the night and Dylan Denmark. Let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal? What is the big deal?
No big deal. It is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
So a couple of things really stood out to me involving Championship Sunday yesterday. And I will begin with this. I have often told you that I am the oldest 40-year-old on the planet. And I believe I'm in the running for that. I do not lead an action-packed life. I lived through my 20s, and that's good enough for me. I like the simple things, like a glass of chocolate almond milk and watching the evening news to stay up to date on my current events and listening to 1010XL pretty much all day, every day. My life is very simple. Some would call it boring. Some would say I'm old. I like to say it works for me. And what else works for me is the simplicity of football. You tackle, you block, you score touchdowns, and you kick field goals to get points on the scoreboard. I am not in the analytics side of things like a lot of the people my age are. I do enjoy websites like Pro Football Focus to see how they grade players. I enjoy that aspect of analytics. I think the fact now that when teams are down 8 in the fourth quarter, they go for 2 is absolute nonsense. Nonsense. That's the analytics side of things. I also think that going forward on fourth down from the 27-yard line, because your percentage of converting a 4th and 2 is higher, I guess, than making a 45-yard field goal. Again, that's nonsense. We've watched NFL football in the way we've known it now for going on 5.5 or 6 decades. We're about to play Super Bowl 58. And this absolute crap about, well, the numbers say to go for it instead of kicking the field goal. No, they don't. I don't know what numbers you're looking at. I deal with numbers in reality. And what reality tells me when it comes to the Detroit Lions is you're up 24-10 midway through the third quarter. You got a 45-yard field goal to make it 27-10. What are you doing on planet Earth going for that? Well, Hacker, he dropped the ball. They had a great play called. I don't care. I don't care if they would have scored a touchdown on that play. That is idiotic by Dan Campbell. And I like Dan Campbell. Dare I say I have man love for Dan Campbell. I think he's everything that is right with the National Football League. You know what? Dan Campbell, that's a guy I could see myself drinking a beer and talking football all day long. I think he's great. He had an awful game last night. Awful. Not only do they not take the field goal at 24-10, inexplicably down 27-24, he again does not take the field goal to tie the game, and they don't convert on fourth down. And if that wasn't bad enough, then with a minute to go and all 3 timeouts, you run the ball, you get tackled, thus having to burn a timeout and thus ending your season. What a Cinderella story. What a great feeling it was seeing Detroit celebrate those 2 playoff wins. But what an absolutely horrific way for it to end. Horrific. Dan Campbell's a great coach, and he has turned that program around, turned that franchise around, and I love what he's done. But my gosh, that was awful last night. Call me old school, call me boring, whatever you want to call it. Kick the darn field goals, man. Denmark, you're 15 years younger than me. Are you the numbers guy? Did you think it was good to go for those?
No, I'm a defensive guy. I kicked the field goal. Not so much in the first time, but the second time you definitely got to kick the field goal. But, I mean, it's not surprising. It's what he's done all year, and that's what got him there. So
it's what got him there, and I you know what? You're like a majority of people that I've heard say that today. And again, I'm old, I guess. You cannot coach the NFC Championship game like you coach Week 4 against Minnesota.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I saw something where they were, I think it was like 20 of 25. It's like, yeah, that's great, but it's not Chicago. This is not Week 6 against Atlanta. Like, this is the game. And when you're up that big 24-7, like, look at the Kansas City-Baltimore game. How big were field goals in that game?
I had people telling me, you're right, and I had people last night saying, oh, this is what he does. He's a riverboat gambler. Look, Week 8 against the Atlanta Falcons, and you go for it on fourth down, all right. It's not the road in San Francisco fighting for the right to go to the Super Bowl. I thought that was horrific by Dan Campbell. Terrible. And then Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers in Baltimore. I mean, what do you say there? Everything was right in front of them. They had Mahomes at home. The Baltimore defense shuts out Kansas City in the second half, and Baltimore still could not muster enough points. It is going to be long. You think the offseason here has been long. It is going to be long off seasons in Baltimore and Detroit. But that brings me back to our hometown, beloved Jacksonville Jaguars. You know, there was a time during Mike Mularkey and Gus Bradley and even somewhat Doug Marrone's tenures where the Jaguars did not look like they played in the National Football League. They looked like they were something else. They just did not look like a competent NFL football team. Loss after loss, beating after beating. It was embarrassing. It was ridiculous. They've graduated from that. They are absolutely a respectable NFL football team now. They belong on an NFL field. They didn't belong on the fields yesterday. When you watch that Kansas City-Baltimore game, the physicality of those two football teams, when you watch San Francisco-Detroit, the weapons that both of those teams had, moving the ball up and down the field, I don't know if you guys saw this, but to my eye, man, Jacksonville's got a long way to go. A long way to go. Keep in mind, that Baltimore team beat Jacksonville by 16. That Kansas City team did not allow Jacksonville to score a touchdown. That San Francisco team beat Jacksonville by 31. Detroit, albeit last season, absolutely annihilated Jacksonville in the Motor City. And you can see why. Jacksonville is not among the bottom tier of the NFL anymore. So they've gotten better. But they got a long way to go to look like the teams I saw yesterday. A long way to go. From playmakers on offense to coaching and play calling to just the physicality of those defenses. Man, that was some stuff to watch yesterday. And I just don't think Jacksonville is there. I don't think they're anywhere close to being there. Can they get there? Yeah, they probably can. They got some of the pieces in place. But the way those teams played yesterday, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, from the pass rush to the linebackers making plays to the secondary, I just think Jacksonville's got a ways to go. Jacksonville has went from bad to competitive, which is a great first step. It's like Trent Baalke said last week. Now you got to go from competitive to championship level. And Jacksonville, at least what I saw yesterday, is not there. They're not even close to being there. It's good to be competitive, but to go from competitive to championship worthy is going to take a lot more work with this roster. A lot more work with this roster. 641-1010 is the phone number on the phone line and on the text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures. Again, Matt Verderam, Sports Illustrated, out in Mobile covering the Senior Bowl. He comes up in about 45 minutes or so. Coming up next, it is Monday night. That means Monday night coaching with Campo. My buddy Dave Campo, he's our head coach here on Hacker After Dark. Let's talk Kansas City. Let's talk San Francisco. Let's talk about new Jaguar defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen and all points in between. Dave Campo with you next on a Monday night edition of Hacker After Dark.
1010XL takes you behind the microphone.
If anything, I'm the funny one.
All right, dude, let's not start with this again, okay?
You're the one who just started it.
Dan Hicken and Jeff Prosser.
I just wish that you could say that I'm as funny as you are.
They are The Drill.
Yeah, well, I wish I could say that too.
Mornings on 1010XL.
Rick Ballou for Carlson Dental. You know, I've been telling you this for quite some time because it's true. I hate going to the dentist, or at least I used to hate going to the dentist. I had total anxiety, and then I tried sedation. Light sedation for cleaning and deep sedation as well for cavities and root canals. Folks, it's an incredible experience. So don't be nervous. Don't be scared. Go to carlsondentalgroup.com. That's carlsondentalgroup.com for all of your dental needs.
Here's your 1010XL community calendar of local events and nonprofit groups helping people here at home.
If you'd like to work for the Jumbo Shrimp this season, bring your resume to 121 Financial Ballpark, Saturday, February 10th from 10 to 1. Learn more at jackshrimp.com.
The Tom Coughlin J Fund helps families battling childhood cancer, and there are ways you can help. Go to tcjfund.org.
The 5-Star Veterans Center of Jacksonville is the place homeless veterans can go to recover, recharge, retrain, and reconnect. Learn more at 5starveteranscenter.org.
City Rescue Mission provides life-changing support for the homeless. Find ways to get involved at crmjax.org.
There is a critical need for all blood types. Please consider donating to a local blood donation center.
You can find out how to share your community event at 1010XL.com.
Hey everybody, Jennifer Marion with Randy Marion Cadillac in Jacksonville here to say hello, and we'd sure like to have your business.
You know what? They're going to love the king of price.
My dad believes in making great deals and having a great selection in stock.
Cadillac XT4s, XT5s, and XT6s, and Escalades.
The all-electric Cadillac Lyriq.
CT4s and CT5s.
Cadillac luxury and selection is just waiting for you.
At Randy Marion Cadillac, Southside Boulevard, Jacksonville.
And don't forget, tell them Jennifer sent ya.
This Date in Sports History is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On January 29, 2012, American snowboarder Shaun White achieves the first ever Super Pipe perfect score in Winter X Games history.
Tacos and sports go hand in hand, literally. You can watch sports with a taco in each hand or with a taco in one hand and a surfboard in the other. Don here from Taco Lou. I love sports, and since you're listening to this station, you love sports as well. If you love sports and tacos, then Taco Lou is calling your name. We always have the game on here, or you can call in a to-go order to watch at home, or let us cater your next watch party. Catering for the holidays? No problem. Taco Lou in Jax Beach. Cheers to tacos, sports, holidays with the family, and tequila.
Visionaries, builders, and doers. Are you ready to change the world? Miller Electric is your opportunity to shape the future. Miller Electric is leading the charge in electric vehicle technology with our state-of-the-art EV Innovation Design Center. We're working to create a sustainable future. We're also the proud partners of the Jacksonville Jaguars, powering their performance at the brand new Miller Electric Center. Miller Electric, we provide competitive pay, unbeatable benefits. Apply today. MillerCareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
Visit Monahan Jewelers now through Valentine's Day for savings on all GIA certified diamonds and discounts store-wide up to 40% off. And interest-free financing on all purchases. Certified diamonds, gemstones, engagement rings, diamond studs, designer brands. Monahan's has it all. We're not a chain store. We're your local family jeweler since 1977 with a world-class inventory of fine jewelry and diamonds and gemstones available in any size. Support your local family jeweler now through Valentine's with huge savings on our inventory. Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach.
At Ameris Bank, we're invested in the success of your business. Our local bankers are ready to help you improve your cash flow, optimize your operating accounts, and access financing when you need it. From treasury services and digital banking to loans and lines of credit, we offer tailored solutions to help your business thrive. At Ameris Bank, we're with you. Visit amerisbank.com/withyourbusiness or walk into one of our branches today to get started. Ameris Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. All loans subject to credit approval.
Come to Bowden Eye for all your eye care needs. Hicken here. Did you know that diabetes is a leading cause of blindness and affects up to 34 million Americans? Please don't take diabetes lightly. If you have diabetes, see your favorite Bowden Eye doc and save your vision. Bowden Eye is dedicated to the protection and preservation of the treasured gift of sight. Bowden Eye and Associates. Visit today for your personal consultation. Keeping the First Coast focused. New location now open off County Road 210 in St. Johns County.
I'm with Greg from Cycles of Jacksonville. I know Honda, they're so cool on the road and off the road, but guess what? Tell them about them being on the water.
There is an all-new Honda boat coming out. We went out and partnered with Scout, who's been making the finest holes in the business for years. They're fuel-efficient, dynamic, and class-leading.
So Honda is in the boat business, and you will see boats coming to Cycles of Jacksonville soon.
We will have them in the spring, ready to go.
CyclesofJacksonville.com. Keep track of all of it. Find them on Atlantic near Regency.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Let's ring up another guest on the All-Pro Roofing phone line.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, we are glad you are with us. Super Bowl 58 is now set once again. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. How do they continue to do it? They take care of Baltimore. San Francisco beats Detroit in a game they'll be talking about for quite some time in the Motor City. So it's Chiefs and 49ers. And on top of that, there's an awful lot of Jaguar news going on as well. With all that being said, I'm welcome in my friend Dave Campo. It's always Monday Night Coaching with Campo right here on Hacker After Dark. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, and yesterday was pretty darn good. You know, when you get to that game, those games, it's pretty close to the best four teams. You know, and when the games are tight, that's what the game is all about.
There's no doubt, Coach. And let's begin in the American Football Conference. Kansas City gets it done. They're going to their fourth Super Bowl in, I believe, 5 years. Just a crazy feat by both Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and that entire organization. Let's begin with the losers, though, in Baltimore. I got to tell you, Coach, I got real questions as to that Baltimore offense and what they were thinking during that game.
Well, obviously they're predicated an awful lot on the ability to run the football, including the quarterback. And just like every ball game, a lot of it comes down to what happens during the course of that game. And, when you get some penalties, you get, they've kind of prided themselves on being a very aggressive, tough, hard-nosed defensive football team, especially, but in all aspects. And, when Flowers, gets a taunting penalty, those kind of things, you can't win with those kind of things in big ball games. And, on defense, some personal fouls, it just can't do that in a game. That, especially when two teams are very close, and that's what happened in that ball game a little bit.
I've seen people want to blame John Harbaugh for the Ravens playing undisciplined football yesterday. Is that on the coach or is that on the players?
Well, I think they've been pretty disciplined all year, so I'd have to take it away from the coaches, and it kind of goes to the player being smart enough to not do those things. If it happens all the time, I think then it's a coaching issue, a discipline issue within the ball club. But I think that, they went into that ball game feeling like, we're gonna hit these people, and it was. I've read a number of articles about their team and how aggressive they are and those kind of things, and they actually, in all honesty, got away with one on Mahomes, and it just was one of those games where they tried to insert their will. They did it in some unconventional ways. Let's just put it that way.
One of the things that was really interesting coming out of that game was the Kansas City defense. And we always talk about Mahomes and Kelsey and Andy Reid, and with good reason, right? They're the stars. But, boy, Steve Spagnuolo, it did not work out for him as a head coach. But some coaches are just better to suit as coordinators, and Spagnuolo is one of the best coordinators the NFL has seen in a long, long time. It seems to be his time of year in January because, once again, Coach, Steve Spagnuolo and that Chiefs defense completely shut down a terrific quarterback yesterday in Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, they did a great job of pressuring, with 5 and 6 to make sure that the majority of the gaps were handled so that he couldn't take off and run, because when he takes off and runs, he can make people miss. There's no question about it. In fact, one of his longest ones, they had the gaps covered, and one of the inside interior linemen spun out of there trying to go make a play, and he ran right through there. Spags is an outstanding football coach. He's been that way for a long time. I've known him, for an awful long time, and he is one of the better guys in the business. And I think one of the things that escapes people sometimes, I go back even, and this is not about me, this is about Dave Wanstead, Butch Davis, and myself, the 3 coordinators during the Super Bowl run. The triplets with Dallas got all the recognition, but in reality, the defenses in those games were critical in winning ball games, and I think that has to be the case when you get into this level of ball. You can't allow another team to control the ball on you. You've got to be able to stop the run, and Jacksonville did an outstanding, Kansas City did an outstanding job with that in that ball game.
It is Monday Night Coaching with Campo. My friend Dave Campo here with us on Hacker After Dark. Coach, you were a defensive coordinator. You went up against some of the greatest offensive players the league has ever seen, including the great Jerry Rice, in your battles with San Francisco. And Travis Kelce yesterday passed Jerry Rice on the receptions list for postseason football. He's 34 years old, but Kelce continues to play at a all-time high. I mean, what can you say about Travis Kelce at this point?
Well, I made the comment when I was watching the game to my wife. This guy's too good to retire. I've heard, the retiring thing for a while here. I think he, unless he's just had enough of it, there's no question his skill level has not left him, and especially the compatibility with Mahomes and knowing each other and knowing what they're going to do. It's fantastic. I know one thing: if I had been Baltimore, I'd have spent a little more time making sure that he didn't beat me.
The head coach, Dave Campo, here with us. Coach, we'll get it more into this certainly next week, and if Kansas City wins, then the conversation will really begin. But Andy Reid in the postseason, I mean, second only to probably Belichick, right? He's got to be the best coach of this generation, and you got to start wondering in the pantheon of great NFL coaches of all time where you put Andy Reid on that list.
He's right at the top, and whether or not that's better than Belichick or Belichick's better or Tom Landry or whoever it is, he's right there. I mean, there's no question when you put together a run like they have, there's no question he's won in wherever he's been. The guy is an outstanding offensive guy, and he's really good at evaluating talent, obviously, along with the personnel people, and his staff is outstanding. So you've got to put him way up there. I think he's unbelievable, to be honest with you. And what they're doing is unbelievable. I texted him after the ball game, and I said, Andy, your guys are unbelievable.
You know, final question for the AFC Championship portion of this, Coach. The two quarterbacks, Mahomes, I mean, what do you say at this point? We'll get more into him in the next couple of weeks, certainly, because he's still playing. As far as Lamar Jackson goes, does yesterday's performance affect Lamar, in your opinion, moving forward?
I don't think so. I mean, I think Lamar, obviously that's a little bit of a total offense thing, not just him. I think he did enough this year to show that he is one of the top guys in the league. I was asked on the primetime show this week prior to the game, which, as a defensive coordinator, which one that I would be more concerned about playing against between he and Mahomes. And my answer was Mahomes, not because Mahomes is light years better than Lamar, but I thought the entire offense was better at Kansas City than the one in Baltimore. And I think that that's the case. I think that, Lamar is asked to do certain things and he does them very well. And do I think he's a pure passer? Absolutely not. Can he throw the ball? Yes. And so, to me, both of those guys are at the top level quarterbacks in the league.
Monday Night Coaching with Campo, my buddy Dave Campo here with us on Hacker After Dark. To the NFC title game, Coach, we'll get to San Francisco in a moment, but let's start with Detroit. You and I were texting back and forth last night. I love Dan Campbell. I love everything about Dan Campbell. I think he's great for the NFL. Having said all that, I thought he had a horrific night in the Bay Area last night. What were your thoughts?
Well, first of all, when you're talking to me, you're talking old school. And all these analytics and all that stuff were not around. You make decisions based on gut. And, you had an idea of when to make certain calls, when not to make them. But one of the old adages was you very, very seldom take points off the board. Now, you can say, okay, analytics say, and really analytics, when they talk about going for a fourth down call and where to go for them and all those, it's minuscule. It might be you've got a 52% chance of making this. Well, you also have a 48% chance of not making it. I think when you make those calls, it is really based solely on where you're at in the ball game, how critical is the situation, and how good you feel about your third down and short game, because that's what it is. It's a third and 2, 3, or 4 situation that you're dealing with. And to me, there's a difference between being aggressive and being reckless. And I think he went a little overboard with the macho part of it and was a little too reckless in that ball game, especially the second one. You put the points on the ball, go back up 17, and let's move on, and let's see if our defense can't have a chance to win this game for us.
And I hear people saying, well, they've done it all year, and that's all fine and well, but you got to read the room. And you knew San Francisco was going to make a run. You knew they were. And you're up 24-10. You kick that field goal. It's 27-10 midway through the third. Instead, they decide not to go for it. Reynolds drops the ball. And in literally the blink of an eye, it is 24-24. To that point, to San Francisco's portion of this, Coach, we got to give them credit because in back-to-back games, they probably have not been the better team. I'm not sure they played better than Green Bay, and I don't think they played better than Detroit, but they're packing their bags for Vegas and for Super Bowl 58.
3 or 4 plays in a game make the difference when you got two teams that are very close to each other, which, you would like to think that the 4 that were in this were really the same team. Whoever played better in those games, in those 4 plays or so, win the football game. And sometimes the coach is involved with going for 4th downs instead of kicking a field goal. Sometimes it's the guy fumbles the football when in a critical situation. You just don't know when those plays are going to come. And I would agree with you there that in my mind, I thought San Francisco, they had no answers early in that ball game. And one thing you've heard me say many times, I've seen teams jump off the 20-point, 21-point leads in the first half. In the second half, the other team makes adjustments and you let it eat. Baltimore was one of those teams yesterday because in reality, Kansas City did nothing in the second half. So you see that happen a lot in the league because they have experienced players and experienced coaches that can make adjustments during the course of the ball game. I have to give it to San Francisco. They didn't panic, and they did what they had to do. And I tell you what, anybody that says that our man Purdy is a manager, I don't think they're looking at the ball game. That guy's a winner, and his running plays probably were the difference in the football game, other than the mistakes.
I want to end with the Jaguars, Coach, and we'll obviously get more into the Chiefs and the 49ers next week when we preview the game. But final thought on yesterday, who should be more upset, Baltimore or Detroit? Who let a bigger opportunity slip away, in your opinion?
Well, because of where they sat, I would have to say Detroit, because I'm a firm believer, Hack, that you're a champion until you're not. So Baltimore playing against Kansas City, I picked Kansas City. And the reason was they are the champion until they don't end up there. Whereas on the other end, Detroit was a huge underdog and really had a chance to win that football game. They just didn't get it done.
Final moments with Dave Campo. All right, Coach, since the last time you and I talked on the Jaguar home front, they have a brand-new defensive coordinator in Ryan Nielsen. What do you know about Ryan Nielsen, formerly of New Orleans and last year Atlanta? Your thoughts on that hire here in Jacksonville?
Well, I think it's a solid hire because, when you look at statistics, and I know statistics are not the only thing, but when you look at the statistics, he made a tremendous amount of improvement with the Falcon defense during that period of time. And that usually comes from having a good, solid foundation, philosophy, and implementing his motivation or whatever's involved. That usually comes into play. I think that the one thing about it is that when you look at coordinators over history, defensive line coaches usually don't get them very often because they're zeroed into what's going on up front and really don't know the back end that well. So when I was asked about him before, I said a lot of it's going to depend how I feel about him based on who he brings in to cover the back end. And bringing in Chris Richard, I know him a little bit. He's a darn fine football coach. I think he understands the pro passing game. So I think the combination of those two are a pretty good blend on what they're going to do defensively. And the one thing about that guy, Nielsen, he's aggressive, which I like. And they had a good pass rush group without having one guy that sticks out. And I think that's a plus.
Will there be obvious things that the casual football fan, Coach, will be able to see differences between a Mike Caldwell defense and a Ryan Nielsen defense, or will they look somewhat similar?
No, I think they'll be much more aggressive. And the concern is going to be, when you look at them, and I don't know what film Trent Baalke was looking at when he said they were a zone principal football team. They had the most press corner situations. Now you can play some zones with the corners pressed now, but they were a man-based team the majority of the year, and that's going to be interesting to see what happens with the corners that we have, or whether or not they have to go out and get some. And, to me, you'll see a more aggressive unit. And I think, those guys, if for some reason, watching them play, they got a lot of guys free when they did blitz. And that's something that we didn't see here. There weren't a lot of guys just running scot-free with the zone blitzes that we ran around here. So I'm hopeful that's what you're going to see, a little bit more pressure on the quarterback and making them execute.
Coach, final question. You've been a defensive coordinator in the NFL for many years in your past. What's the protocol? Ryan Nielsen gets hired. He gets the job. Has he personally reached out to Josh Allen and to Trayvon Walker? Have they reached out to him? Have they already met? How does that process go here in the month of January?
Well, I can only speak of what, I did. And as soon as I got the job in Dallas, the first thing I did was call the guys that are the champions in the locker room on defense. And, I knew those guys, obviously, because I was with the club, during that whole time. And, I think he probably reached out to the guys that are maybe free agents to kind of give them and Josh Allen is a perfect example. In other words, this contract negotiations being done, let him know what I'm all about. And, I would think that he reached out to some of those guys and to kind of give them a heads up to what to expect.
And the offseason's going to go quick now, 3 weeks in. In fact, free agency is just 6 weeks away, and they got to figure out Josh Allen. They got to figure out Calvin Ridley. A lot to be discussed here in Jacksonville over the next 40 or so days. Dave Campo, it's always Monday Night Coaching with Campo here on Hacker After Dark. Coach, have a fantastic week. Next Monday, we will preview the Chiefs and the 49ers in Super Bowl 58. Appreciate you, my friend.
This is a great week for those guys. When you're getting ready for the Super Bowl today, this Monday is the best day of the year until the guy that wins the Super Bowl, because right now those guys are in the 24-hour rule and they've got an extra week to get ready for the ball game. So this should be a real good one. I think this is one's going to go to the wire.
And they get the pack for Las Vegas, which first Super Bowl in Vegas, which just adds to it. No question about that. Thank you, Coach.
You got it. Have a great week, Hack.
There are many ways to experience 1010XL.
The key to this whole thing is their computer.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
Get me that computer program. Yes, sir.
At 1010XL.
Hey folks, Rick Ballou here for John's Auto. They've been a staple in Jacksonville going all the way back to 1985. At John's Auto, they service all makes, all models, cars, trucks, diesel, you name it. They do it, whether it's routine maintenance or a complete engine overhaul. Call John's Auto on Arlington Road. That's 904-743-3857 or go to johnsautomotivejacks.com.
Mike Dempsey here for Awaken 180 Weight Loss. A little quiz for you. Let's see if you can guess what these potential side effects are from. Pancreatitis, urgent bowel movements, depression, suicidal thoughts, kidney stones, birth defects, hypoglycemia, anxiety, and insomnia. If you happen to guess weight loss injections, you'd unfortunately be right. All those risks when 80% of patients gain their weight back within a year of stopping the medications. Now, how about these side effects? Fat loss, happiness, increased mobility, confidence, restful sleep, and increased energy. Those are the effects Awaken 180 clients experience when losing their weight fast and for good, thanks to free support for life. Before opting for medications, first ask your doctor about Awaken 180 weight loss. I'm confident they'll recommend Awaken 180 as safer, faster, and a long-term solution for weight loss. If you already know medications aren't the route for you, give Awaken 180 a call at 844-346-1800 or schedule your consultation at awaken180weightloss.com.
Are you facing a plumbing challenge? Need some septic system TLC? Or maybe you want to keep your indoor temperature nice and cool? We're Duck Duck Rooter, a locally owned company and proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And we believe in turning every challenge into an opportunity to provide outstanding service. From unclogging drains to keeping your air conditioning crisp, we've got you covered. Contact us today for all your plumbing, septic, and air conditioning needs. 904-862-6769. That's 904-862-6769. Or online at duckduckrooter.com.
The new year is the perfect time to make sure that your roof hasn't been damaged after storm season. It's
Schedule a complimentary roof inspection with Universal Roof and Contracting. And right now, get $250 off your new roof, plus flexible financing options. This offer expires January 31st and restrictions apply. Universal Roof and Contracting, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. License number CCC 057165, CBC 1258484.
UniversalRoof.com. For the first time ever, the biggest game of the year happens in the state of Nevada. 1010XL's coverage is brought to you by Window World of Northeast Florida. Simply the best for less.
Mike Dempsey here. Look, your fantasy football season might be over, but you can still win money playing fantasy sports on Underdog Fantasy with their Pick'em game. Just pick higher or lower on players' projected stats. They have a boatload of Pick'em contests to spice up the games. So act now, and you can win up to 100 times your money if all your picks hit. Underdog is so easy to play, even easier to get started, though. Just download their app, the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store, or visit UnderdogFantasy.com and sign up using promo code 1010XL. Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. They even give you a special pickup higher than 1/2 total yards to use on your first pick'em entry to get you started in the right direction. Look, you know I love daily fantasy sports. It's why I play at Underdog Fantasy, and there's no better time to make money on the biggest football game of them all than right now. Sign up using promo code 1010XL. You do have to be 18 or older and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. If you're concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
Ever wonder how you can transform your living spaces into captivating works of art? At First Coast Lighting and Fans, they offer a huge selection of high-quality products to match your desire for elegance, quality, and uniqueness. Visit their showroom on Phillips Highway at the Avenues and step into a world of quality without compromise. Discover the difference that locally owned expertise makes and let them help you experience the transformation from average to extraordinary. At First Coast Lighting and Fans.
The First Coast Games is an annual corporate challenge to introduce fun activities into the workplace and focus on your employees' health and wellness goals, with some friendly competition, of course. Registration is now open through the First Coast YMCA for both recreational and challenge divisions, including pickleball, cornhole, volleyball, flag football, and other team sports. The games will begin in March. Register your company and teams at fcymca.org.
Wow, John, my Clearwater sprinkler system looks great.
All right, Frank, let's go ahead and program your Rainbird timer. How many minutes do you want the zones to run?
John, I think we run from the front 20, the sides 15, the back 10, the garden 5. Clearwater scores!
Well, that's a first, Frank, but you're the boss.
Clearwater Irrigation. We can't sing a lick, but we sure are good at sprinklers.
And drainage to
ClearwaterJacks.com. 1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
14 minutes before the 9 o'clock hour. We'll take you up till 10 o'clock tonight, as we do every night here on Hacker After Dark. 1010XL and 92.5 FM. Matt Verderam of Sports Illustrated, who's out in Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl right now. He joins us in less than 15 minutes. We'll talk a little Senior Bowl, talk about the Jaguars, a little Ryan Nielsen, a little AFC South, and then certainly focus a little bit on San Francisco and Kansas City. Also coming up at the bottom of the 9 o'clock hour, my buddy Mark Wise of the ESPN family of networks. I often joke around with Mark. That man has forgotten more about college basketball than I'll ever know. And boy, if you were watching Saturday, that was an entertaining game between Florida and Georgia. Of course, the backdrop of former Gator coach Mike White being in Athens as the head coach of the Dogs. Obviously, Todd Golden trying to establish something in Gainesville. Florida gets up 21 points in the second half. 21 in the second half. And Georgia comes all the way back to tie the game to the point where they had the ball with a chance to win it. With about 15 seconds to go, it ultimately goes to overtime. Florida makes more plays, wins the game. survives and keeps their season afloat. Because let me tell you something. If Mike White and the Georgia Bulldogs went into Gainesville and came back from a 21-point deficit and found a way to win that basketball game on Saturday, the Gators season might as well been over. And the Todd Golden tenure at Florida would have been in serious, serious peril. That was a program-saving win over Mike White and Georgia just because of your former head coach being there, blowing a 21-point lead, a rival. I mean, everything was working against Florida. And to their credit, in overtime, they were able to circle the wagons, if you will, and get that victory. I'll also say this, too. Boy, and I'm going to talk to Mark Wise about this. You know, you start looking at college basketball, it's sneaking up on us, right? Selection Sunday is only about 6 weeks away. The first conference tournaments begin in about a month. So there's really, I mean, we're kind of coming down to the wire a little bit. It's only midway of the conference season. But Florida, as an example, has played 22 games. They only have 11 games left. They're 2/3 of the way home in their regular season. Actually, they've played 20 games, and they have 11 left. So, yeah, roughly 2/3. They sit at 14-6 on the year, 4-3 in the Southeastern Conference. Everybody in the SEC is a jumbled mess. I also wanted Mark on because Florida on Wednesday this week, well, they go to Lexington. They go to Rupp Arena to take on John Calipari and the Kentucky Wildcats. So figured it was a good time to get Mark Wise on, and he will join us coming up in about 45 minutes or so. Back into the world of the National Football League, I said earlier tonight here on Hacker After Dark that to me, it did not look like the Jaguars belonged on those fields yesterday. I just don't see the physicality in Jacksonville, the play calling, the playmakers in Jacksonville that I saw with those other teams. I'm getting a couple of negative responses on social media, and that's fine. One thing to consider, though, when I make that comment is this. Jacksonville played Baltimore, Kansas City, and San Francisco this year. Played all three of them, and in fact, played all three of them right here at Everbank Stadium. They scored a combined 1 touchdown in those 3 games. 1. And that was against Baltimore. What was it, 23-7, Ravens won, 17-9, the Chiefs won, and, of course, 34-3, San Francisco won. So if you take the combined score of those 3 games, you're looking at, 74-19, I believe is what the Jaguars were outscored by Baltimore, by San Francisco, and by Kansas City this year. Look, there's no shame in admitting this. Jacksonville was the worst team in football in 2020. They were the worst team in football in 2021. You know why I know that and why you should know that? Because they had the number 1 pick in the draft. I'm not conjuring this out of thin air. They were the worst in 2020 and 2021. And in a very short amount of time, they've gone from the worst to now being in the conversation of the middle of the pack. They are average. They're not any better than average. They've been 9-8 last year, 9-8 this year. That is the definition of average in the regular season. It's a heck of a lot better than where they were in 2020 and 2021. They've made the gigantic leap from being awful to being average, which is commendable. But if you want to be championship worthy and if you want to be in the conversation among the great teams in the league, and you watch those 2 games yesterday, Jacksonville's not there. They're just not. And again, 74-19 is the point differential in 3 losses to Baltimore, San Francisco, and Kansas City. All games at home here in Jacksonville. And, of course, those 3 were in Championship Sunday yesterday. It is Kansas City. It is San Francisco. I was telling Ballou this earlier, and we'll obviously have a lot of time. The game's still 13 days away. There'll be an enormous amount of build-up for this game. But, boy, I was fired up for the idea of Detroit and Kansas City. You started the season on Thursday night, was that September 9th, in that game at Arrowhead. Detroit went in there and won. I thought, man, you're going to start with that game and you're going to end with that game in Super Bowl 58. It had a lot of appeal. Andy Reid, Dan Campbell, Patrick Mahomes against Jared Goff. There was just a lot of stuff there. And when San Francisco came in last night and just absolutely destroyed Detroit in the second half, to me it was kind of a buzzkill to an extent. I was far more interested in Chiefs-Lions than I think I am Chiefs-49ers. I think it's a terrible matchup for the 49ers. Absolutely terrible. I think Kansas City's going to win the game. I'll go ahead and tell you 13 days out. I just think the build-up for Detroit, Kansas City, the intrigue, at least to me, would have been a little better. I'll get there with Kansas City, San Francisco. I'll be excited about it by the time it kicks off 13 nights from now. And maybe it's my affinity for Dan Campbell and my absolute bewilderment last night at watching him just absolutely throw away that game. It'll be hard to live that one down. They will be talking about that game in Detroit, and we will be talking about that game in regards to Dan Campbell until he does something about it in the postseason down the road. Because that is one of the coaching mishaps that I've ever seen, one of the biggest ones. You pass up on 2 field goals, you run the ball when you shouldn't have with a minute to go. It was a lot of problems for Detroit, and it's really unfortunate because what a great story, great season, but an absolutely terrible ending. And quickly, when it goes to Baltimore, again, I think you got to question Lamar Jackson. Whether that's fair or not, that's reality. He's now he's 2-4. Yeah, 2-4 in the postseason. He's been to the postseason 4 times. He's won 2 games. He loses again at home. He loses a game in which the Baltimore defense shuts out Kansas City in the second half. And again, it just goes to show you what we've always said about Baltimore. If you get up on them early, they tend to have problems. They're not good at coming from behind. Look, when they have the lead, it's easy to run the ball down your throat and unleash Lamar Jackson and all that. But when you get out in front of them and you make them play catch-up, they panic a little bit. And I think you saw Todd Monken, the OC for Baltimore, panic a little bit yesterday. They hardly ran the ball at all. Lamar Jackson was back there playing backyard football. His receivers couldn't get open. It was a bad look for the Ravens. Again, I said earlier, Baltimore and Detroit both had every opportunity to win yesterday. They both lost, and it is going to be long off seasons full of a lot of questions for both teams. And both teams have a lot of decisions to make in free agency. And who knows? I mean, if you're Baltimore, think about this. Burrow was hurt. Herbert was hurt. Lawrence didn't make the playoffs and was hurt. Deshaun Watson was hurt. You got Mahomes at home, and you still couldn't get over the top? Is Baltimore ever going to have an easier path than what they just gave away yesterday? I don't know. And again, an awful lot of free agents to re-sign in Baltimore. That team is going to look a lot different in the coming weeks than it did yesterday. We are at halftime here on Hacker After Dark. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. Jacksonville, we are with you until 10 o'clock tonight. 641-1010 is the phone number on the text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures. Coming up next, let's go out to Mobile, Alabama. The Senior Bowl going on out in Mobile. My buddy Matt Verderam of SI. Let's talk Senior Bowl. But let's certainly spend some time on Jacksonville, on the Ryan Nielsen hire, on the Brian Callahan hire, the brand new head coach of the Titans, and we will certainly talk about Championship Sunday. With Dylan Denmark, the Hacker Ryan Green with you. Jacksonville, we're glad you're with us. A Monday night in Jacksonville, Florida, and you have it right here on Hacker After Dark, 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Quenching your thirst for midday sports talk.
I hear we're getting a new cappuccino machine.
XL Prime Time.
Something hot.
Josie, Matt Hayes, Mia O'Brien, and Leon Searcy. Weekdays from noon to 3 on 1010XL.
The Players is proud to support the Zellner Foundation, on their mission to empower Northeast Florida military veterans.
We empower them to improve their mental health through the sport of golf. 43 days to go.
So I'm here with Danny Van Sickle, Director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Danny, tell me about your program.
Hey, Rick, we're a 5-year electrical apprenticeship. Our students start out making over $30,000 a year and right now graduate making over $80,000 a year, including benefits. There is no tuition and no student debt. You just have to apply and get accepted.
Did you say no tuition and no student debt?
You heard that right, Rick. Once you're accepted into the program, your only costs are the books and the course fees, around $700 a year.
Wow, that sounds like an amazing opportunity. How can I learn more?
Just go to etajax.org and you can apply there.
Visit Monahan Jewelers now through Valentine's Day for savings on all GIA certified diamonds and discounts store-wide up to 40% off. And interest-free financing on all purchases. Certified diamonds, gemstones, engagement rings, diamond studs, designer brands. Monahan's has it all. We're not a chain store. We're your local family jeweler since 1977 with a world-class inventory of fine jewelry and diamonds and gemstones available in any size. Support your local family jeweler now through Valentine's with huge savings on our inventory. Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach.
The Bulls are back in town and taking over Jacksonville. Get ready for bull bucking mayhem at VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena, February 23rd and 24th. U.S. Border Patrol PBR Jacksonville is bringing the city 2 nights of bull riding action, featuring the most electric 8 seconds in sports. Come see the toughest sport on dirt at VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena, February 23rd and 24th. Get your tickets today at PBR.com or Ticketmaster.
Home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Come to Bowden Eye for all your eye care needs. Hicken here. Did you know that diabetes is a leading cause of blindness and affects up to 34 million Americans? Please don't take diabetes lightly. If you have diabetes, see your favorite Bowden Eye doc and save your vision. Bowden Eye is dedicated to the protection and preservation of the treasured gift of sight. Bowden Eye & Associates. Visit today for your personal consultation. Keeping the First Coast focused. New location now open off County Road 210 in St. Johns County.
Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you. Call 904-722-1111.
Instant Keys saves the day if you've lost or broken keys. They can program new keys and remotes for nearly every make and model of vehicle at a fraction of the dealership cost. Fast, honest, and reliable locksmith service. Call Instant Keys, 722-1111.
Hi, Jags fans. Walker Little here for my friends at Kingfish Pest Control. Playing offensive line in the NFL, I must block and protect on every down. When it comes to keeping my home pest-free, I expect that same level of protection. So I contacted Kingfish after seeing thousands of positive online customer reviews about their service. I can confirm from personal experience, bugs don't stand a chance getting past Kingfish Pest Control. Do what I did. Reach out to Kingfish Pest Control to protect your home, a proud partner of your Jacksonville Jaguars.
This is Keith Catlin for Catlin Truck Accessories, and we are so blessed to be in business for over 100 years. Over 100 years of the best product and customer service means you can count on Catlin. From roll and lock bed covers to Lear toppers to cam locker toolboxes, Catlin Truck Accessories has you covered when it comes to your truck or van. We do those too. Got a fleet of vehicles? We can outfit them all.
Who can you count on? Count on Catlin.
One name, one location, 100 years. You can count on Catlin.
Lauren Brooks here from Mayport CNC Fisheries. Want the freshest seafood in town? From mahi to tuna to scallops to oysters. Mayport CNC Fisheries is in Atlantic Beach. Do what I did. Go enjoy Mayport CNC Fisheries.
This is Hayes Carlion for QC Kinetics. Are you sick and tired of achy joints? Look, you need to call QC Kinetics today. They've got 2 great locations, Mandarin and Ponte Vedra Beach. Give them a call for a free consultation at 904-274-5522. That's 904-274-5522. Look, the state of healthcare is always changing. It's evolving, and old ideas like steroids and surgery, they're no longer your only options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative, non-surgical, drug-free treatments that deliver lasting results. Knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain, arthritis, injury. Don't let this pain keep you from living your best life. QC Kinetics advanced state-of-the-art treatments harness and direct your body's natural ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. Give them a call today, QC Kinetics, 904-274-5522.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Let's ring up another guest on the All-Pro Roofing phone line.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, we are glad you are with us. And then there were two. Super Bowl 58 will be the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. Boy, Championship Sunday was a lot of fun, but in the end, Kansas City and San Francisco are the two left standing. Of course, the Jaguars have a new defensive coordinator and are looking for a new direction following the biggest collapse of their franchise's history. And with all that being said, the Senior Bowl is going on in Mobile, Alabama this week. So there's a ton to get into with that. Let's go out to Mobile. My buddy Matt Verderam of SI, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Matt, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Matt, we're good. Appreciate you joining us. I know it's a busy week. I know you're in Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl. I've been out there a few times myself. It's certainly the kickoff to the off season, really, is what I look at it as. And, boy, the Senior Bowl out in Mobile, really some interesting prospects, Matt, that are going to get underway this week.
Yeah, it's a really good group. I'm looking forward to it. Just got that. And look, I mean, the quarterback's going to be the big story, right? I mean, you got Penix, you have Nix, you have Joe Milton, who I think a lot of people are interested in watching him close out of Tennessee. And it is a loaded group. I've been here some years where you looked at the quarterbacks, kind of like last year, quite honestly, and Pickett was here, or a couple of years ago, Pickett was here. And you look at some of these groups and say, okay. And then other years, there's years like when Herbert was here, and it was a group you looked at and said, okay, I'm pretty excited to see how all these guys shake. But it's a good group, a lot of good quarterbacks, a lot of good offensive linemen. I think that's going to be a spot that's really loaded this year here in Mobile. So looking forward to getting to practice tomorrow and watching the pads pop a little bit.
Yeah, when we were out there, the Jaguars were historically picking in the top 5, so we were out there about 3 or 4 years in a row. We thought the Jaguars would be picking a lot later in the draft than at number 17, which is where they landed. Matt, you and I haven't spoken since the collapse at the end of the year. My gracious, man, what do you make of what happened here in Jacksonville at the end of the season?
Yeah, really, I mean, look, some unfortunate injuries. I mean, obviously Lawrence, he gets hurt a couple different times and didn't seem like he was 100%. But I think if you're being realistic, it wasn't just the injuries. I mean, they defensively, they could not stop anybody from throwing football. And it got to a point where, I mean, if you can't stop the pass in today's NFL, you're done. I don't care how talented you are, unless you have an offense that is just so dominant that you can win games 35-31 every week. It's going to be tough to overcome that. And we saw Jacksonville as the year went on. They just simply could not get off the field, which is why there was the change at defensive coordinator. I still believe in Trevor Lawrence. I still believe in a lot of the playmakers on offense. But at some point, you got to be able to defend down the field. And other than Josh Allen on defense, there weren't enough guys stepping up. There were not enough guys, and certainly nobody in the secondary who you looked at went, that guy week in, week out, I know is going to play at a Pro Bowl level. Just wasn't good enough. And in the end, a really, a brutal loss to Tennessee, and it leaves a lot of questions.
Matt Verderam of Sports Illustrated. Matt, we mentioned Mike Caldwell is out at defensive coordinator. Ryan Nielsen is in. Now, I don't know a lot about Ryan Nielsen other than the people I've talked to in Atlanta that really liked him in the 1 year he was there. And in watching the Falcon defense, they did some nice things this year, Matt. So from that alone, I guess I'm intrigued by Ryan Nielsen coming to Jacksonville.
I think he's a great hire. I do. You talk to people in the league, he's highly respected. Look, I mean, the only reason he was available was because Arthur Smith got fired. It wasn't anything he did. It wasn't like he was let go because of poor performance. And that's a unit in Atlanta with some talent, but not an overwhelming amount of talent. I mean, I think you look at them, and Jesse Bates came over last year in free agency. He was great. Calais Campbell feels like he's ageless. Still had a nice year there. But they are a team defensively in Atlanta that you look at them and go, okay, there's good talent, there's good personnel. But it's not like you're looking at the Legion of Boom over there. I think, coming over to Jacksonville he should be able to implement a defense that plays a little bit more sound in structure, is a little bit more control, that, not going to have as many breakdowns in coverage. If you look at the way Atlanta played, I think the best word for it is just sound. They weren't splashy and spectacular all over. They were just a good, sound, smart defense. And that was something at times in Jacksonville they weren't last year. A lot of blown coverages, a lot of mistakes. Sometimes you're better off just being sound and not being incredibly gifted. Of course, you'd love to be both. But if you're sound, you're not going to beat yourself. And in the NFL, a lot of times, that wins you the game because the other team they'll make enough mistakes to let you get out with a victory.
Yeah, the Jaguar defense would be good in being sound and not letting David Njoku fair catch a couple of touchdowns and Derrick Henry run through gaps as wide as the Pacific Ocean there at the end of the year. It was a cluster of errors for the defense towards the end of the season. Matt, Trent Baalke's going to remain as GM. Press Taylor is going to remain as offensive coordinator. There's a lot of questions here about both guys. Let's begin with Press Taylor. That's an odd dynamic with he and Doug Peterson, right? You could argue that cost Doug Peterson his job in Philadelphia, the loyalty to Press Taylor, and we're kind of going back down the same road, aren't we, here in Jacksonville a little bit?
Well, I think it remains to be seen how this is all going to shake out. But I do think at some point, if you're Peterson, you have to be willing to say, look, I'm the head coach. This is going to be my offense. Sink or swim. Doesn't mean Press Taylor can't have a say in it. Doesn't mean Press Taylor's got to be fired. But, I do think if you're Peterson, that's your baby. That offense is you're a former NFL quarterback. You made your bones coming up as an OC, won a Super Bowl with a team that's in that Super Bowl. Foles had the game of his life, and Wentz was on his way to being an MVP that year before he got hurt. So he has obviously overseen some very successful offenses, including Jacksonville last season when they went to the playoffs. But I think, there needs to be a little bit more of, hey, look, I'm the one running the show. This is my offense. Press Taylor's here in a supporting role, much like you see in Kansas City right now with Nagy and Reed. Nagy's there to help install the game plan and make sure things are on point. But, it's Andy's offense. Andy's running that show. And I bring them up because Peterson coached with all those guys in Kansas City. That should be kind of the model that I think he should follow.
Matt Verderam of SI. Quickly to Trent Baalke, Matt. The Jaguar fan base is probably more unhappy that Baalke remains than Press Taylor. Your thoughts on Trent Baalke? And, boy, he held a press conference last week where, again, just did not make a lot of friends among the Jaguar fan base here. Your thoughts on Baalke moving forward here in Jacksonville?
I would say that I understand the frustration. Baalke brought in a lot of talented guys in San Francisco, but that was always a combative situation with the 49ers when he was there with Jim Harbaugh. Now, some of that is Jim Harbaugh's a combative guy to begin with, and so you mix those two, okay, fine. It's a different personality dynamic with Peterson there. But, Baalke's somebody who, I think it's fair to say sometimes you look at the personnel decisions and you say, look, you overpaid this guy. Or, maybe this guy got drafted around too high. When Baalke likes somebody, he goes all in a lot of times for him. And look, sometimes that's fine. Sometimes that works out for you. Maybe you were aggressive and you beat another team to the player, whether it be in free agency or the draft. But, Baalke is a guy who has a history of, he'll have some big hits, but he has some big misses. And, if you're Jacksonville right now, you've got Lawrence on a rookie deal here for the next couple of years, plus, control with tag and stuff if they use it. You got to take advantage now because this conference is not getting any easier. Stroud is clearly an elite quarterback in Houston. We don't know what Richardson's going to be yet. We'll wait and see there, but Steichen's a very good head coach. Look at around the AFC. Look at all the quarterbacks. Forget Rodgers for a minute since he's older, but just Mahomes, Herbert, Jackson, Allen, Burrow. On down the line. The guys already mentioned, Lawrence certainly among them, Stroud. It's not going to get easier. So you can't afford big misses. You got to hit.
You do. And look, the Jaguars, 12 months ago thought they were the team that was going to be in the top 5. And, heck, they were 8-3 and the number 1 seed in the AFC for a few hours, and then it all came crumbling down. We know it was a battle between Houston, Indy, and Jacksonville. What about Tennessee, Matt? Brian Callahan, the brand new head coach there. You look at Titans Twitter, they think it's the greatest hire on planet Earth. National guys, your colleagues, not so much. What's your opinion on the Callahan hire?
I know it doesn't make for great radio, but I'm kind of in a wait-and-see mode. Look, it's hard to evaluate a guy like Callahan because he comes from Cincinnati, where they have the lead offensive talent, and they have an offensive-minded head coach in Zach Taylor. So how much of their success was due to those factors? How much of it was due to Callahan? Now, if you talk to people around Cincinnati, they'll tell you, oh, look, Brian Callahan is a first-rate coach, and that's fine. But he's not walking into a situation with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. That's just it's not reality. So you don't know with that. Is Will Levis, is he the future or is he a guy? DeAndre Hopkins played well this year. He's older. Treylon Burks, I think flashes, but going into year 3, was he worth that first round pick? I don't know the way to answer that question yet. There's a lot of questions. I think Callahan has promise. I think he has potential. But to sit there and say either it's a bad hire or it's a good hire, I just think a lot of times we always see a guy, young coach, especially on the offensive side, to get hired, and everybody runs to say how great the hire is. Like, you have no idea. I mean, for every guy who is a Shane Steichen, there is a Brendan Staley. So I think we just have to wait and see. I think it has promise, but I don't think we know a ton about Callahan.
Final moments with Matt Verderam of SI. He's out in Mobile covering the Senior Bowl. Matt, I know you'll be in Vegas next week covering the Super Bowl, and that's where Kansas City and San Francisco will be. Look, let's talk about the losing teams first, the Detroit. Your thoughts on Dan Campbell and his disregard for anything that resembles a field goal in the second half of that game.
I've always liked Dan Campbell. I liked him since the second he got hired. I thought his press conference, everybody was killing him. I thought it was honest. I thought the players would like him. That game yesterday is indefensible, period. Flat out. I don't care what any analytics guy out there said. I don't care. Like that is, you cannot pass up that field goal 27-24. You want to argue about the first one at 24-10? Okay, I would have kicked the field goal, but okay, I can hear that argument. To not kick the field goal with whatever it was, 7-8 minutes left, down 3 points. I mean, what world are you in? You need to tie the game, and then if the Niners go and score, worst case, you can tie it. And instead, they don't get anything, and then they go and they give up a touchdown, and then they get to the goal line. And to this moment in time, I have no idea what they were doing on third down running the football, and then calling a timeout. I mean, that essentially finished off the game. I don't know why they did that. I thought Campbell, he was aggressive all year, and that's fine. You can't coach a playoff game like you coach week 3. And I know people like to be like, well, you got to be consistent. That's great. That sounds good. It's a different game against a much better opponent. You have to play differently. They didn't. They're home.
I completely agree with you. I love everything about Dan Campbell. I thought it was a horrible night for him. And as far as Baltimore goes, Lamar Jackson struggles again in the postseason. Steve Spagnuolo, the Kansas City defense, the Ravens had no answers for him. What does this do to Jackson and the Ravens moving forward, losing that game yesterday?
I think it's a devastating loss, and not just because, they had an opportunity and they lost. But, when you look at them, let's be real. They're going to lose a lot of guys in free agency this offseason. It's coming. They have a ton. There are very few teams that have more talent, maybe nobody who has more talent hitting free agency than Baltimore. Whether you want to talk about Clowney, Matabuke, Kevin Zeitler, Odell Beckham, Geno Stone. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. They are not going to retain a lion's share of those guys. They're paying Jackson now. This was a huge opportunity. Chargers and Jags with elite quarterbacks don't make the playoffs. The Bills get knocked out. They don't have to play them. Burrow's hurt. Rodgers is hurt. If there's ever a year that Stroud, it's his first year. He's dipping his feet in the water. The Chiefs are very mortal, or at least appear to be anyway. You have an opportunity right there. And you're at home. You're the number 1 seed. And I thought the hardest thing to swallow for Baltimore out of that game for me is a lot of it was just they did to themselves. I mean, it was just personal fouls. I think they were frustrated. I do not think they expected the Chiefs to come in there and physically hand it to them. And that's what happened. And I think they had a really hard time dealing with that physicality, which is normally their calling card. It's a crushing loss considering what this offseason is probably going to be like for them.
And the absolute crazy thing, Kansas City didn't even score in the second half, and Baltimore still could not find a way to get it done. Matt, final thoughts, Super Bowl 58. You'll be out in Vegas, obviously, covering it with the Chiefs and the 49ers. I know we're still 13 days out, but what's your early thought on the Super Bowl?
I think this is a rough matchup for San Francisco. I do not think this is going to go well for Brock Purdy against Spagnuolo in this game. If there's any coordinator in the league you don't want to face as a young quarterback, it's probably Spagnuolo right now. I mean, they have completely shut down the best offenses that they've seen all year long. I mean, Baltimore was scoring 30 points plus almost every single week for the last 3 months. They scored 10 points. And they had the ball constantly, as you alluded to, in the second half of the game. They still couldn't score. Look, I respect the Niners. I think they have a lot of talent. I think this is going to be one of these games where about the middle of the third quarter, you're watching it going, Spagnuolo just has his head spinning. He's just throwing so much at him. I like the Chiefs in the game. I think the Chiefs will find a way. I don't think the Niners' defense is as good as it's been in years past. I think it's decent. I don't think it's great. Between Mahomes and Kansas City's defense, I think they're going to find a way to win that game.
You're as close to Kansas City as any national guy is. There's already a rumor if Kansas City wins, that might be it for Andy Reid. Any thoughts on that?
I'd be shocked. I do not think that's – I mean, look, he's 66. He's one of the older coaches in the league, but he's not the oldest by any stretch. And he's got a couple of years left in his contract. I have had no indication from anybody I talked to in Kansas City that that's the case. I think there's speculation because of the age. Same thing with Kelsey this year. I think Kelsey's coming back no matter what happens. I would be very surprised if it's the end for either one of them.
Matt Verderam, Matt of SI. Now, you're out in Mobile. You'll be covering the Senior Bowl. But I saw you started a piece there on SI today. It's going to be running where you had a lot of people involved in it. Take us through that here in Jacksonville for people that want to check that out on SI.com.
Yeah, thanks. It went up. The first part of it went up today. So I wrote a piece. It's a large project, the 50 most influential teams in NFL history. Teams 50 through 41 went up today. It's a 5-part series. It runs, one part every day this week on SI.com. For the piece, we had a panel of, I believe, 31 people, some of the most esteemed people in the country who cover the league, some people who have been in the league, like Bill Poley and Amy Trask. We've all voted on the top 50 teams for us, came to a consensus on the list, and then I wrote up a blurb, 152 words about each team. We had a panelist quote in there. And then I spoke to a Hall of Fame player, a star player, or the coach for every team that was in the Super Bowl era and a couple of the Packers teams even prior to that. And they have quotes in there. People who range from, Dan Fouts and Larry Zonka to Joe Namath, Ty Law, on down the list, the entire 104-year history of the NFL. So it also will be in print. I think it just hit newsstands today. It's 16 pages in the magazine, and that's only about 15% of the words you're going to see online because they just couldn't fit it all. So go check it out. It's, I think, in total like 24,000 words online, but it's broken up into 5 parts, so it's not going to make your eyes bleed. It's a lot of fun.
That is absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to check that out. Matt Verderam, one of my favorites to talk NFL with. Matt, I know you're busy, man. Thank you so much for the time. We'll do it again soon.
You got it. No problem.
Live play-by-play sports were made for radio.
Well, there is advertising worth the price of admission.
And 1010XL was made for you.
Men, are you suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE? The medical providers at Prime Men's Medical Center offer breakthrough treatments that eliminate problems in the bedroom without pain or surgery. 98% of men see instant results on their first office visit. Listen to a specialist in men's health.
I'm Dr. Simovitz. Prime Men's Medical Center offers breakthrough medical treatments that eliminate ED and PE. Men are even lasting 90 minutes or longer, regardless of age or medical history.
But that's not all. For a limited time only, call Prime Men's Medical Center now, and your initial consultation and first treatment are completely free. You'll see instant results right in the office. You'll even get a gift that enhances your performance in the bedroom. All this, worth hundreds of dollars, is free if you call now. 904-664-8217. 904-664-8217. That's 904-664-8217.
When you roll into a convenience store for some cold Bud Light, you want to make sure it's, well, cold. Check out the big coolers at Circle K. They make sure it's chilled and ready to go for the big game or party. Swing by Circle K and pick up some cold Bud Light.
Lower mortgage rates are here, and smart homeowners are wiping out all their credit card debt with help from Loan Pronto. Hey, Prosser here. Right now, Loan Pronto has a cash-out refinance rate of just 5.49%. You heard me. That's a huge drop. So you can get refinanced now, get cash out of your home's equity to wipe out all those credit cards and other high-interest loans. You can save hundreds every month with lower payments. Or, if you still have a mortgage rate in the threes, you can use Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit. Just get the cash you need and leave your primary mortgage intact. Loan Pronto can get you $50, $75, $100, even $200,000 in just a matter of days. Bottom line, Loan Pronto's got several options to help you erase debt and take control of your finances. Call today, and you can even skip your next 2 mortgage payments. Call Loan Pronto now at 904-999-1508, 904-999-1508, or loanpronto.com, 999-1508. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, 5.49%, has a 6.39 APR, subject to lender approval.
Break free from the old school hassle at All Pro Roofing. They've revolutionized the game. And guess what? No more pressure, hassle, or time meeting with someone face to face for a roof quote. Unlock the power of an instant roof quote right from the comfort of your home. Get the information you need when you need it. Explore your roofing options today. Head over to allproroofingllc.com. Hit that instant roof quote tab for a free instant roof quote. allproroofingllc.com.
License number CCC 1327056.
CDC 060138.
Fish are good at hiding. Captain Kevin can help you find them.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Find more fish on the Ring Power Fishing Forecast Show.
Thursday nights at 6.
Brought to you by Awaken 180 Weight Loss on 1010XL AM.
Tacos and sports go hand in hand, literally. You can watch sports with a taco in each hand or with a taco in one hand and a surfboard in the other. Don here from Taco Lou. I love sports, and since you're listening to this station, you love sports as well. If you love sports and tacos, then Taco Lou is calling your name. We always have the game on here, or you can call in a to-go order to watch at home, or let us cater your next watch party. Catering for the holidays? No problem. Taco Lou in Jax Beach. Cheers to tacos, sports, holidays with the family, and tequila.
If your ride is making strange noises, don't wait and make it worse. Come to Action Transmission on Merrill Road. My expert technicians can diagnose the problem and likely fix it fast. Experience the difference at Action Transmission on Merrill Road.
Mike Dempsey here. Look, your fantasy football season might be over, but you can still win money playing fantasy sports on Underdog Fantasy with their Pick'em game. Just pick higher or lower on players' projected stats. They have a boatload of Pick'em contests to spice up the games. So act now, and you can win up to 100 times your money if all your picks hit. Underdog is so easy to play, even easier to get started, though. Just download their app, the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store, or visit UnderdogFantasy.com and sign up using promo code 1010XL. Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. They even give you a special pickup higher than 1/2 total yards to use on your first pick'em entry to get you started in the right direction. Look, you know I love daily fantasy sports. It's why I play at Underdog Fantasy, and there's no better time to make money on the biggest football game of them all than right now. Sign up using promo code 1010XL. You do have to be 18 or older and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. If you're concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
Ever wonder how you can transform your living spaces into captivating works of art? At First Coast Lighting and Fans, they offer a huge selection of high-quality products to match your desire for elegance, quality, and uniqueness. Visit their showroom on Phillips Highway at the Avenues and step into a world of quality without compromise. Discover the difference that locally owned expertise makes and let them help you experience the transformation from average to extraordinary. At First Coast Lighting and Fans.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Really appreciate my buddy Matt Verderam of SI for joining us tonight out in Mobile, Alabama. More on the National Football League coming up in just a bit, but college basketball. Well, that was a big one for the Gators on Saturday. They defeat Mike White and the Georgia Bulldogs 102-98 in overtime. Florida's now won 3 games in a row. They're 4-3 in the conference, 14-6 overall. and their reward for that is a trip to Rupp Arena on Wednesday night to Lexington and to take on John Calipari and the Kentucky Wildcats. When it comes to the Florida Gators, SEC basketball and college basketball at large, my buddy Mark Wise has joined me for years. That guy has forgotten more about college basketball than I'll ever know. We'll talk with Mark about Florida, about the SEC, and kind of where things stand a month out from conference tournaments beginning. Again, 6 weeks out from Selection Sunday. Florida, I believe, has 11 games remaining. They need to start piling up those quad one wins is what they call them. They don't have many of those. They could go a long way in doing that if they go to Lexington on Wednesday and pull the upset over Kentucky. So we'll talk a little college basketball. My buddy Mark Wise of the ESPN family of networks, he's coming up next. Hacker After Dark on a Monday night here in the city of Jacksonville, and we're glad you're with us. It's 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
I'm Josh Scobie.
Scobie sweeps the leg, 59 yards away.
On 1010XL.
He's got it. Jacksonville wins.
Save big at Key Buick GMC with up to $10,000 off on all new Buick Enclaves or up to $9,000 off new Buick Envisions. Receive really low APR rates like 1.9% APR financing for 36 months, 4.5% for 48 months, or 60 months, 5.4% for up to 72 months. Come on in now to Key Buick GMC and enjoy no payments on the Buicks for 90 days. That's 3 months. Key Buick GMC on the corner of Southside and Gate, KeyBuickGMC.com.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is your Mad Dad's Update with Chapter President Donald Ford. Mad Dad's is asking for good, committed men who want to be part of an organization that has been around for 17 years. We are a group that is part of the solution, not the problem. We are a group that don't stand around murmuring and complaining, but get into action and hit the streets to get the community to break the code of silence to remove the murderers off our streets. We do not require a lot of time, just willing and able bodies to get involved. We've had far too many murders this year already not to get involved. If you want to be part of this great organization, call 904-718-1649. We're looking for men, not men acting like boys. Hit me on Facebook and tell me what you think. For information about Mad Dad, go to Mad Dad's Jacksonville Chapter Facebook or MadDadJacksonville.com.
Visit Monahan Jewelers now through Valentine's Day for savings on all GIA certified diamonds and discounts store-wide up to 40% off. And interest-free financing on all purchases. Certified diamonds, gemstones, engagement rings, diamond studs, designer brands. Monahan's has it all. We're not a chain store. We're your local family jeweler since 1977 with a world-class inventory of fine jewelry and diamonds and gemstones available in any size. Support your local family jeweler now through Valentine's with huge savings on our inventory. Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach.
From the very beginning, 1010XL has encouraged and recognized the accomplishments of local scholar athletes.
Wednesdays on The Frangie Show.
Brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
And the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Local Union 234.
This is Hayes Carline here to help you break free from the chains of pest infestation. The talk of this town is Kingfish Pest Control. By now, many of your neighbors have already joined the Kingfish Revolution, leaving their homes and lawns protected and pest-free. Now it's your turn. Call Kingfish Pest Control and say goodbye to termites, ants, mosquitoes, and other annoying pests. Trust me, you'll get exceptional service and understand why your neighbors and I use Kingfish Pest Control, proud partner of the Jaguars.
Smoke and carbon monoxide detectors are two of the best life-saving investments for the safety of your family. Mr. Sparky will install the best unit for your home.
Call 888-8-SPARKY.
Your on-time electrician, Mr. Sparky of the First Coast.
The Bulls are back in town.
and taking over Jacksonville. Get ready for bull-bucking mayhem at VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena, February 23rd and 24th. U.S. Border Patrol PBR Jacksonville is bringing the city 2 nights of bull riding action, featuring the most electric 8 seconds in sports. Come see the toughest sport on dirt at VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena, February 23rd and 24th. Get your tickets today at PBR.com or Ticketmaster.
Come to Bowden Eye for all your eye care needs. Hicken here. Did you know that diabetes is a leading cause of blindness and affects up to 34 million Americans? Please don't take diabetes lightly. If you have diabetes, see your favorite Bowden Eye doc and save your vision. Bowden Eye is dedicated to the protection and preservation of the treasured gift of sight. Bowden Eye and Associates. Visit today for your personal consultation. Keeping the First Coast focused. New location now open of County Road 210 in St. Johns County.
I'm with Greg from Cycles of Jacksonville, and I always tell you, hey, what's hot on the street, but what is hot on the water right now?
We've got some big news from Honda. They have a boat coming out, and much like they did with their jet, they went out and partnered with an industry leader in Scout Boats. It's making the hull for them, but everything else in the boat is all Honda.
So you're talking in the next handful of days and weeks, we will see Honda on the water at your showroom.
It'll be on the showroom, and it'll be ready to go.
So log on to cyclesofjacksonville.com. They are in the marine business with Honda. Keep track of it right there on Atlantic near Regency.
Exciting news from Leonard in Jacksonville. Now stocking your favorite brands right here at Leonard. From truck accessories, toolboxes, hitches, carry-on trailers, and more. Grand opening on February 2nd at noon with free prizes. Don't miss it. Leonard Buildings and Truck Accessories. Your truck, your style.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Let's ring up another guest on the All-Pro Roofing phone
Back here on
line.
1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The end of January, and boy, college basketball is really heating up. We are in the middle part of conference season. Heck, Selection Sunday is about 6 weeks away, and conference tournaments will begin in about a month, if you can believe that. And there's a lot going on, particularly in the Southeastern Conference, where it is a very, very competitive SEC right now. A lot of schools jumbled right in there together. With all that being said, let me go down to my buddy Mark Wise of the ESPN family of networks. He does a great job covering the world of college basketball, and he's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Mark, how we doing?
I'm doing great, Hacker. Thanks for having me on, and Happy New Year, or maybe Happy Belated New Year.
That's exactly right. Well, it's your time of year. I see you all over the place. What's your travel schedule like in the coming days? You're on SEC Network one night, ESPN 2 the next night. They got you all over the place.
Yeah, this past weekend I was at South Carolina on Saturday and then at FAU on Sunday. Tomorrow I leave for Missouri. From Missouri I go to Nashville and Vanderbilt. So, yeah, we're in the full swing of things. The sprint is on, and I can tell you this from watching different leagues and different players and different teams and coaches, our game has never been deeper. It's never been better. And one of the reasons for that is it's never been older. I'm covering guys now that are doing their 145th game. Their 100. I'll have some guys at the end of this year that will have 160 games of college experience.
Wow.
So because of that, I'm covering guys that are 22, 23, 24 years old. These are not the 18 and 19-year-olds from 5 years ago.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Not only is it an older game, it seems to be a deeper game, particularly in the SEC. Mark, it's a jumbled mess right now in the Southeastern Conference. You got a lot of teams that are within a game or 2 games max of each other throughout the league. I mean, what's your thought in totality of where we stand in the SEC right now?
Well, I think there are several things at play. Teams that were preseason picked at the bottom of the league, like South Carolina was preseason picked 14th, they're 5-2. Georgia was picked at the bottom, they're 4-3. Ole Miss was picked at the bottom, they're 4-3. So I don't think the league has ever been deeper, and I'll give you an illustration of just how deep it is. There's one team in the league that has more quad one wins right now, today, than any other team in the league. Care to venture a guess?
More quad one wins than any other team in the league. I'd say it's probably one of the better ones. I'll just venture a guess and say Tennessee.
That's a great guess. That's incorrect. The answer is Texas A&M, who sits at 3-4 and 12-8 overall. They have 4 quad one wins, and I think that speaks volumes of how good the league is. I've said already, I have 4 teams on tier 1. That's Alabama, Auburn, Kentucky, and Tennessee in some order. But if you're asking me to order tier 2, no idea. It depends on what night, who's playing at home, who's playing well. It's that close of a conference race. I've always said, you've heard me say this for years, the difference between being 6th in the country and 36 is 1 possession.
Mm-hmm.
And 36 and 66 is another possession. So maybe we throw around the term upsets a little too frequently, especially when it comes to an unranked team. I mean, really? The number 7 team loses to the number 30 team, and that's an unranked upset? I don't think so.
Mark Wise of the ESPN family of networks. Mark, is the parity a direct result of the transfer portal?
It's several things coming together. It's the transfer portal and the COVID redo. That's allowing more players to spread out for longer. There's no question that the major conferences are cherry picking the best players from the mid-majors. I think we're going to have one more year of this, and until we get over that or past that, you're going to continue to see that play out. I think the player of the year in the SEC, hands down right now, is Dalton Knecht. He wasn't even recruited out of high school, went to a junior college for 2 years, then labored at Northern Colorado, where he's a double-figure scorer. But right now, he is by far my choice for player of the year. And he gives Tennessee something, Hacker, they haven't had. They have not had in the last 4 or 5 years a guy that they could give the ball to at the top and say, hey, go get me a shot. Go get us 2. And he can deliver.
Yeah, that guy went for 39, I believe, against Florida. Gator fans are very familiar with him. Speaking of the Gators, it was pretty dicey about a week and a half ago, Mark. Things were not going well, but they've strung together a couple of good performances, including a Mississippi State game. I know you called that. Florida got that done. Florida wins in overtime after almost blowing a 21-point lead. This could be a very different conversation, but they did end up winning against Georgia. And now all of a sudden the Gators find themselves, 14-6, 4-3 in conference play, and they obviously got a big one Wednesday night when they go to Rupp Arena.
Yeah, they've got 2 on the road at Rupp and at Texas A&M, 2 quad one opportunities, and really the only thing missing from Florida's resume is quad one wins, and it's a kind of a eyesore 0-6 record in those games this year. They don't have any warts on their resume. Their strength of schedule is solid. Their non-conference strength of schedule was good, not great, but good enough. So I think they're in position to be in position. And until they can collect a quad one win or 2 down the stretch, I think of their 11 remaining games, 6 are quad one opportunities. And then you might get 1 or 2 other opportunities in the SEC tournament. But if they want to get on the inside of the bubble, they're going to have to collect some of these.
Mark Wise, ESPN family of networks. Mark, I know you've had Florida a couple of times this year. A year and a half in for Todd Golden. How would you assess where he is a year and a half into the program?
Well, in some ways, Hacker, don't you think it's fair to say this is really year 1? Because when he started with year 1 a season ago, he had Colin Castleton. And then he played the back half of that season without Colin Castleton, his very best player. So this is there's no question they are much better. They're much better in terms of overall talent. They are so significantly better at the point guard spot. I am a huge Zion Pullen fan. He's got positional size. He's got a great feel for the game. He sees the floor well as a point guard. His assist to turnover ratio, I think, is best in the league. He's just a dynamite player. He's a borderline pro. That's how good I think he is. Walter Clayton, when Pullen got eligible after the 3-game sit-out that he had to do, Clayton moves to his more natural shooting position. The only guy that they really can't figure out right now is Kugel, and he's coming off the bench. And I think he's kind of like his whole season has been uneven. I've said this. I think everything Kugel does is loud. His outstanding plays, his poor plays, his body language, everything he does is loud. And when you're a loud player like that, don't you get scrutinized more?
Mm-hmm. You can, yeah. And Kugel, look, to his credit, and that's one thing with Florida, Mark, it's some nights it's Kugel, but if Kugel's off, Will Richard will step up. If Richard's off, Pullen's there. If Pullen's off, you mentioned Clayton, Tyrese Samuel. It's not just one guy. I mean, any, 5 or 6 of their guys any given night could go for 20+. And the one thing about Florida that they have not had in years is, Mark, they're big, man. I mean, they got a lot of size for the first time in a while.
Not only are they big, but they're bouncy. Those big guys are bouncy. When you're talking about Hanlogton and Samuel and Condon, Halk hasn't gotten as much run lately. I think he's learning the ropes a little bit, but Condon certainly doesn't play like a freshman. Hanlogton, I think, is getting better and better. Remember, he had the ankle injury that kind of set him back. And then I'm looking at the box score from Saturday against Georgia, and I'm watching some of it, and I'm thinking, well, Samuel wasn't very good in the game. He ended up with 8 and 8. He had 8 and 8 almost accidentally. So that's how good they are. Their struggle has been defending people. And I think one of the challenges for coaches in the transfer portal, when you get so many new players, there's no carryover from one year to the next because of the defensive schemes that coaches want to run. And therefore, it takes a longer time to figure that out. And right now, I don't know what Florida's defense is identity-wise. They better find it in a hurry, because in the first game against Kentucky, which was, by the way, a great game. I didn't have a game that day. I went to the game. It was a great game if you didn't have a dog in the race, as my father used to say. But they've got to figure out how to keep Dillingham, Wagner in front of them. That was one of the things that South Carolina did. They guarded their yard. They did not get beat off the bounce, so they didn't get caught in rotations. And if you get caught in rotations against Kentucky, then all of a sudden Reeves is making threes, Mitchell's making threes, and they get it and go.
Mark Wise of the ESPN family of networks. Mark, in the time that we have left, let's talk about some other teams in the SEC. Let's mention Kentucky. As you just said, Florida's there on Wednesday night at Rupp Arena. We know Rupp Arena has been a house of horrors for Florida. It has been for most teams for many years in the Southeastern Conference. Kentucky this year compared to some Calipari teams of years past, how would you assess where they are right now?
Well, there's no question whether Cal wants to admit it or not. They have made a schematic change in the way that they attack. They're shooting more threes. More people make threes. Now, they've always made a pretty good percentage, but they just haven't shot enough. They had too many 2-point mid-range game guys. And so now they've backed it out to the arc. And I didn't even mention Reed Shepherd, who may lead the free world in freshmen making 3-point shots. So from that standpoint, they are a different team. Now, they went into last week with 2 games on the road, averaging 91 points a game, which led the country. Now, both teams didn't allow them to play that way. And so they had 2 teams that tempoed the game. I don't think Florida will do much of that. So I would look for another high-scoring game.
Georgia obviously doesn't get a lot of play, but because of Mike White and the factor there, we certainly have focused in on them because some Gator fans were ready for Mike White to go, some were not, and of course the ones that were not wanted to see what Mike White was going to do in Athens. And I'll tell you, Mark, in watching that game on Saturday, and really Georgia the entire year, he's taken advantage of the transfer portal too because they got some dudes on that team.
Yeah, they do. Thomason gives them an offensive threat. Melendez is kind of a wild card. Demery is sort of the steady guy at the point, if you will. And then they have, their 3-point shooter, Abdur Rahim, is a holdover from last year, and he's making 40% from deep. I do think they play a little faster than they have in the past. I think they're averaging right around 77 points a game, something like that overall. Here's what I know about that. Going back to that top tier, though, I wanted to mention this. Kentucky, Tennessee, Auburn, Alabama, they all average better than 80 points a game. I just don't see very many teams being able to do what South Carolina did in terms of beating Kentucky with a game in the 60s, low 70s. I think you have to be willing to score. You're not going to beat Alabama 68-66. They're just not going to allow that to happen. I think Tennessee beat them 95-71 or something like that. That's what I'm saying. You got to be able to score, I think, to beat one of these top-tier teams.
Mark, you mentioned earlier you have 4 top-tier teams in the SEC, a lot of teams in Tier 2. I know Joe Lenardi on ESPN, we're starting to take a look at his bracketology that comes out twice a week. Where do you think we stand in the Southeastern Conference? Obviously, we're still a month and a half out from Selection Sunday, but could you see a scenario where 7 or 8 teams from the SEC get in the tournament?
Oh, I think it's 7 at least. I think that 8 is a more probable number, and there's a possibility of 9. What they've done lately, and I think you're going to see this for the rest of the year. You know, Ole Miss, and what a job Chris Beard has done there. I had them twice 2 weeks ago when they went on the road and lost both times. But then they go on the road this past Saturday and beat Texas A&M, so they picked up a huge win there, and they're undefeated at home. So I think you're going to see Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Mississippi State just beat Auburn, so they're inside the bubble. A&M is already inside the bubble. I think the team most likely to follow from this point forward in terms of are you on the wrong side, right side of the bubble is Florida.
Yeah, Florida at 14-6, 4-3 in the SEC. Lenardi's last bracketology on Saturday prior to the Georgia game had Florida on the outside. We'll see what happens moving forward. Mark, final question. I mean, you look at the SEC compared to all the other conferences in the country, and I got to tell you, man, and maybe I'm an SEC homer here, and maybe my blinders are on, but I think there's a legit conversation, maybe for the first time in a while, that the SEC is right there in the mix to be among, if not the best college basketball conference right now. I mean, it's been a good year in the conference, has it not?
I don't think there's any question about that. And if you were asking me to rank the conferences right now, I think it's a photo finish. I think between the SEC, the Big 12, and the Big East, I have them as 1, 2, 3 in some order. And then there is a huge gap to whoever's 4th. And guess what? 4th just might be the Mountain West.
So you're not high on the ACC this year?
No, I'm not really. The problem with the ACC is they didn't do a lot of work in the non-conference. And so now when you get up to beating yourself up in the in league play, I think Lenardi had 3 ACC teams in the other day. Clemson, who's been safely inside the bubble and should be for a while, but they're going in the wrong direction at 3-5 in league play. Florida State, on the other hand, who nobody had in the bubble, but Primo Spears getting eligible as that 2-time transfer really gives them a shot in the arm in the position they did not have at all in the at the point guard spot. So again, it's going to be really interesting to see if what would really help the ACC is for a 3rd or 4th or 5th team to kind of separate and go on a run.
I always say my buddy Mark Wise has forgotten more about college basketball than I'll ever know. Mark, quickly, let us know again where we're going to be able to find you on TV over the coming days.
I'm on the SEC Network this week, Wednesday night. Arkansas, who's had all kinds of problems scoring against Missouri, who's had all kinds of problems stopping people. So somebody's going to pick up a win there. And then I've got Missouri and Vandy on the weekend.
Absolutely
And I never complain about going to Nashville.
Now, today's takeaways, brought to you by Key Buick GMC, where our family dealership has been helping families buy vehicles for over 50 years.
And thank you to Mark Wise of the ESPN family of networks for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark. As I often say, Mark has forgotten more about the game of college basketball than I'll ever know. But yeah, the SEC really jumbled together right now. Florida coming off a nice win over Georgia to get to 4-3 in the conference, and they will head to Lexington on Wednesday night to take on the Kentucky Wildcats up there at Rupp Arena. My big takeaway from the evening here on Hacker After Dark, boy, analytics, man, I just don't get it. Call me old school. I'm 40 years old. I often say I'm the oldest 40-year-old on the planet, and maybe that's evidence of this right now. But how you don't take the points in that situation last night, if you're Dan Campbell and you're the Detroit Lions, I'll never know. And I bet they'll have an entire offseason of wondering how they turned down not one but two very makeable field goal opportunities that could have changed the complexion of that game. I don't care what it says, what the percentages say. How you leave points out there is ridiculous to me. It's like that thing now where teams are down 8 in the fourth quarter and they go for 2. That's nonsense. That's absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand it. I never will understand it. I think analytics are fine and well and good for aspects of sports, but when you start doing stupid things like that, because that's what the percentages tell you to do, I got real questions about that. And because of that, in large part, San Francisco beats Detroit last night, and of course they will play Kansas City coming up in Super Bowl 58 1 week from Sunday. Well, that'll just about do it. It has been a very busy night here on Hacker After Dark. We certainly appreciate you guys for hanging out with us here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM. We have a ton of people to thank. Again, Mark Wise of the ESPN family of networks. Appreciate him joining us tonight. Thank you to Matt Verderam of Sports Illustrated, one of my favorites to talk NFL with. He's out in Mobile covering the Senior Bowl. Always appreciate Matt taking time out for us here on Hacker After Dark. And, of course, it's Monday night here on 1010XL. And what does that mean? Well, it means Monday night coaching with Campo. My buddy Dave Campo, former head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, joined us as he does each and every Monday. Talk a little Ryan Nielsen, talk a little Jaguars, and recap what was a very entertaining championship Sunday. We will be back tomorrow night on a Tuesday. So for all of us here on HAD, have an absolutely terrific remainder of your Monday evening, and we will do it all over again tomorrow night on a Tuesday beginning at 10 o'clock.
Are you a plumber looking to join a locally owned company that treats you like family? Do you have at least 3 years of residential plumbing service experience? Are you willing to do plumbing work only to the current code, do top-notch, over-the-top installations, and provide 5-star customer service daily? If so, we want to meet you. We are Duck Duck Rooter, one of the fastest growing plumbing companies in Florida.